The rain wasn't just falling, it was slamming the streets like the sky had snapped. Thunder cracked, so loud it made people flinch. Out by the edge of town, where broken signs creaked and paint peeled off rusted fences, Eli Mercer wiped his greasy hands on a rag that had long given up trying to stay clean. His shop was barely a garage, just a shack with a leaky roof, 2 dying lifts, and 1 busted vending machine that only took coins and gave nothing in return. He was closing up for the night. Another day, another near zero in the register. His stomach growled, but he was used to ignoring it, like the way people ignored him. A 29-year-old mechanic, forgotten by a town that once praised his father, left to drown in debt and dust. His boots splashed through puddles as he turned to lock up, then knocking. It was sharp, desperate. Then again, he frowned. "We're closed," he called out without turning. But the knocking didn't stop. It got louder, almost panicked. Eli whipped around and saw her. Soaked from head to toe, hair stuck to her face, eyes wide and pleading. A young woman stood at the garage's sliding door, hugging a backpack to her chest like it was all she owned. "Please," she said, voice trembling. "I don't know where else to go." Eli didn't move. She looked out of place here, soft coat ruined by the storm, hands shivering. Not from the cold, from fear. Her accent had a soft lilt, maybe Eastern European or something similar. Her eyes scanned the inside of the garage behind him like it was a castle and not a crumbling box of rust and tools. "I'm not asking for much," she whispered. "Just a roof for the night. I got lost. The motel's full. They said there's no buses till morning and, please." He should have said no. He wanted to. This wasn't a shelter. He wasn't a savior. But something about the way her voice cracked when she said please hit him in the gut. Eli sighed and slid the door open wider. "You can stay, but just the night. It's not warm, and it sure as hell isn't safe." She smiled then, not the kind of smile people give out of relief. It was the kind people give when they're used to hearing no and can't believe they just got a yes. "I'm Mira," she said, stepping in. "Thank you. You have no idea." He locked the door behind her and tossed her a spare blanket. "Make yourself uncomfortable," he muttered. But she didn't complain. She curled up on an old car seat and wrapped the blanket around herself like it was made of gold. For the first time that night, she stopped shaking. Eli sat by his tool bench, back to her, wondering if he'd regret this. He didn't know her, didn't trust her, didn't know he'd wake up tomorrow and his entire life would begin to unravel. And that this strange, quiet girl, this soaked tourist with trembling hands and kind eyes, wasn't just lost. She was running from something much bigger than either of them could imagine. Eli didn't sleep much. He never did, really, not with the bank notices stacked on his nightstand and the eviction threat sitting in his inbox like a loaded gun. But tonight was different. He could hear her breathing. Mira, slow, steady, like she was finally safe. He lay on a cot in the back room, staring at the ceiling fan that didn't spin anymore. The storm had quieted down, but inside him, something stirred. Why had she been walking alone, out here, this late? Why hadn't she called someone? Why did she look so afraid? By sunrise, Eli gave up on sleeping and rolled out of bed. He stepped into the garage to check on her, expecting her to be curled up where he'd left her. She was gone. His heart kicked in his chest. Mira. Then he heard the clang of a wrench falling. She was standing at the tool shelf, hands trembling, staring down at something in her palm. "Hey," he barked, crossing the floor in 2 steps. "You stealing from me?" "No." Her voice cracked. "No, I swear, I wasn't stealing. I was looking for this." She held up a small metal pendant. A gear-shaped charm, old and scratched. Eli blinked. "That's from my dad's shelf," he muttered. "That drawer hasn't been opened in 5 years." Myra's lips parted. "It was just sitting there," she whispered. "It looked like something I used to have." She handed it to him, eyes cast down. "I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be rude." Eli took the charm, but didn't put it back. His anger faded almost instantly. Something in her voice reminded him of how he felt the day his father's casket was lowered into the ground. Like time had stopped for a moment and left it behind. "You hungry?" he asked, softer this time. Mira blinked like he'd spoken a different language. "I haven't eaten in a while." He nodded toward the kettle. "Coffee's trash. Eggs are older than me." but you're welcome to both. She smiled then, small, grateful, painfully sincere. Over scrambled eggs and burnt toast, they talked. Not much. Not deeply. But enough. She said she was traveling the U.S. on a healing trip. Said she needed to get away. That was all she offered. Eli didn't pry. He wasn't want to talk about his mess, so why expect hers? But there was one thing she said that stuck. I always thought if you were kind to strangers, she said, sipping bitter coffee, maybe someday someone would be kind to you too. That's why I left. Left what? She paused. Her eyes flicked up to his. Everything. Something tightened in his chest. Later that morning, a white SUV rolled past the garage. Slow. Real slow. Windows tinted. License plate blank. Eli didn't think much of it until he glanced at Mira and saw the way her hand shook holding the coffee cup. You know that car? She didn't answer. She just whispered, I think they found me. The storm outside had ended, but the real one was just beginning. Eli stood frozen, eyes on Mira, hands clenched. The air felt thick. That kind of thick where you don't need proof, you just know something's wrong. That car, he said lowly. Tell me what's going on. Now. Mira didn't answer at first. Her eyes darted toward the cracked garage window, like she was waiting for someone to burst through it. Then, quietly, she pushed her hair behind her ear and set her cup down. Have you ever trusted the wrong person, Eli? She asked softly. I mean, really trusted them? Put your entire future in their hands, only to watch them crush it while smiling. He said nothing. She continued. He told me I was special, that I'd be protected, that he'd take care of me if I just stayed silent. Her hands were shaking now. I found out he wasn't just lying to me. He was lying to everyone, about everything. And when I tried to walk away, he made it clear I'd regret it. Eli's brow furrowed. Who? Mira looked up, and in her eyes was the kind of pain you don't fake. His name's Nathaniel Crow. Billionaire. Clean image. Speaks at charity galas and donates to children's hospitals. But he's not who people think he is. Eli took a slow breath. That name rang a bell, big shot mogul with shiny teeth and politicians in his pocket. But what would someone like Mira have to do with someone like him? I was his personal assistant, she whispered. But that's not what he hired me for. And just like that, the room went still. I recorded things, she said, looking him in the eye now. Voicemails, documents, transactions that, if made public, would destroy him. Eli stared at her, the reality crashing in. So that SUV, they're not cops, and they're not here to talk. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Then Eli stood and walked to the workbench. He opened a drawer, pulled out a duffel bag, and tossed it at her feet. Throw your stuff in there. Mira looked confused. What are you doing? He glanced out the garage door, then back at her. Helping you disappear. Her lip quivered. Why? Eli grabbed his keys and a crowbar. Because I've been stepped on, used, and left in the dust my whole life. And I know what it looks like when someone's running for their life. He locked eyes with her. You don't deserve to be hunted. For the first time, her shoulders dropped, not in defeat. In trust. She stuffed her backpack into the duffel. But just as she zipped it shut, there was a loud bang on the metal garage door. Then another. Open up. A voice. Male. Cold. Echoing off steel and oil-stained floors. Eli's blood iced over. Mira paled. He didn't speak. He just grabbed her hand, dragged her through the back door into the alley, and didn't stop running until they reached his beat-up pickup truck parked behind the diner across the street. They dove in. Tires screeched. The truck peeled out onto the highway. But in the rearview mirror, Eli saw them. Two black SUVs, headlights flaring. They're following us, Mira whispered. Good. Eli muttered, jaw tight. Let them. They think you're just some scared girl with secrets. They don't know I've got nothing left to lose. And as he slammed the gas pedal down harder, rain picking up again on the windshield, Mira looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Not as a broke mechanic, but as the only person left who wouldn't sell her soul. The road roared beneath them as Eli gripped the wheel tighter than he needed to. Mira sat beside him, silent, her fingers twisting the frayed edge of the duffel bag. She hadn't said a word since they pulled onto the old highway that snaked behind the hills like a scar. Where are we going? She finally asked, voice barely above the hum of the tires. Somewhere they won't think to look, Eli muttered. Used to be my uncle's hunting cabin. Been abandoned for years. No power. No cell signal. No people. Exactly. She exhaled. Good. They drove in silence for a long while. But Mira could feel it. The shift. Eli wasn't just focused. He was somewhere else. Eli, she said softly, why are you really helping me? He didn't answer right away. Just kept staring straight ahead. Rain danced on the windshield like it was trying to wash away the weight inside the cab. Then, his voice cracked the silence. I had a sister. Myra's head turned sharply. He hadn't mentioned family once. Not even in passing. She was 17. Her name was Willa. Brightest thing this world ever gave me. Smarter than me. Funnier than me. She kept me alive after Dad died. Kept me human. Myra's breath caught. What happened? He swallowed hard, jaw clenched. She was working part-time, at a car wash of all places. One night, she stayed late. Some rich guy's driver shows up. Says he forgot his wallet. She goes outside to return it. His knuckles turned white around the steering wheel. She never came back. Silence. Only the wipers clicking against glass. They found her body by the river the next day. No fingerprints. No witnesses. Security footage was wiped clean. Like she never existed. Myra's throat tightened. Did they ever find out who? Yeah, Eli cut in. I did. Mira blinked. He turned to her, just for a second. His eyes were dark. Hello. Nathaniel Crow. Same man you work for. Same man you're running from. Her blood ran cold. How do you know? I found a burner phone in Willa's things. Photos. Messages. She had no idea who she was dealing with. But she was smart enough to document everything. His voice cracked. I took it to the cops. FBI. Anyone who'd listen. You know what happened? She already knew. She could see it in his eyes. They shut me down. Said the phone was stolen. That the evidence was compromised. One officer even threatened to charge me with obstruction if I kept pushing. Myra's chest heaved. I'm so sorry. I lost her. And he got away. His voice dropped to a rasp. But not this time. They pulled off the highway and onto a dirt path, the truck jostling violently. Trees closed in around them like claws. When the cabin finally appeared, broken, quiet, hidden, Mira exhaled like she hadn't breathed in hours. They climbed out. Eli grabbed the crowbar and led the way through the creaky porch and into the dust-smothered interior. No cameras. No eyes. No sounds but the wind and the crows. Eli stood at the center of the room and turned to her. You've got the evidence? Mira nodded. She unzipped her bag and pulled out a tiny hard drive, wrapped in cloth. This has it all, she whispered. Money trails, contracts, secret surveillance footage. Everything he's been hiding for the last 5 years. Eli's eyes burned. Then we're not running anymore, he said. We're going to bring him down. Suddenly, glass shattered. A window. Back of the cabin. Mira screamed. Eli dropped, grabbing her shoulder and pulling her to the floor just as a bullet punched through the wall an inch above her head. They found us, she choked. He didn't blink. He didn't panic. He just grabbed the hard drive, stuffed it into a lead box from under the floorboard, and shoved it in her hands. Run. No. Run, he roared. Go out the back, down the slope, into the trees. There's a path that leads to the old quarry road. I'll draw them off. Eli, he touched her cheek just once. Willa never got justice. But you still can. She was crying now, but she ran. And Eli turned to face the door as the handle began to twist. The cabin door burst open with a violent crash. 3 men in black poured in, armed, fast, trained. Not thugs. Professionals. Eli didn't flinch. He ducked behind the old fireplace, yanked a flare gun from the wall mount, the only weapon he had left, and fired. A burst of light. Smoke. Screams. He sprinted through the smoke, crashing out the side window and rolling down the slope, dirt grinding into his skin. His lungs burned. But he wasn't running to escape. He was running to buy her time. Meanwhile, Mira ran through the woods like she'd been born there. Branches cut at her face, rocks scraped her knees, but she didn't stop. Every breath was war. Every heartbeat a warning. She could hear them behind her. Snapping twigs. Crunching leaves. They were gaining. She clutched the lead box to her chest like it was her lifeline. Like it was Eli's life inside it. And in a way, it was. She burst into a clearing and nearly collapsed onto the road. It was old, cracked, forgotten, but a truck rolled in the distance. Not just any truck, an old forestry ranger vehicle. She waved, screamed, fell to her knees. The driver hit the brakes. A man stepped out. Uniform. Real badge. Help, she sobbed. Please, I have evidence. He's going to die. The ranger blinked, stunned by the sight of her. But he took one look at the lead box and the desperation in her eyes, and he understood more than she could say. Get in, he said. Back at the cabin, Eli was bleeding from his side, cornered between trees, eyes wild, heart pumping lightning. The men had him surrounded. You should have stayed broke, one of them said, raising a silencer-fitted pistol. But before he could fire, sirens, red and blue lights flashed through the forest. The sound of dozens of vehicles. And then, a helicopter. Nathaniel's men turned their heads, and in that moment of distraction, Eli struck. He launched himself forward, tackling the nearest man, grabbing the gun, swinging wildly. Another shot rang out, this one not from them. A ranger. Then two. Then a full team. Within minutes, it was over. The men were down, arrested, and Eli, bloodied, exhausted, collapsed to the ground. When he opened his eyes, she was there. Mira, face streaked with tears, knees beside his body, holding his hand like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. You made it, he whispered. You saved me, she whispered back. No, he said. You saved me. The footage went public. The documents, the wire transfers, the voicemails, the bribes, the dead girl's photos. Nathaniel Crow's empire burned in broad daylight. Indictments, investigations, front page headlines. Half the country watched as the philanthropist of the decade was dragged in cuffs across marble floors he once walked like a king. Eli sat in his garage, watching on the tiny TV, stitches still healing. Mira stood beside him, holding coffee. He'll go away for life, she said. He nodded. It won't bring Willa back. No, she said softly. But you gave her voice back. He looked at her then. Really looked. She wasn't the scared, broken girl who knocked on his door anymore. She was something else now. Stronger. Steadier. So was he. You ever think of leaving this place? She asked him. Every day. Then come with me. He raised a brow. I'm starting over, she said. And I want someone beside me who knows what it means to fall and still stand. He chuckled dryly. I don't have much. You have more than most, she said. You have kindness. That hit him harder than any bullet. Eli stood, looked around his little garage one last time, and then looked at her. I'm in. They left that town together. Two people broken by the world, who refused to stay broken. And as they drove toward a life neither of them had planned for, the sun finally broke through the clouds.